There have been calls for the Dadaab camp not to be closed by force. Since the announcement by the Kenyan government of the closing of the biggest refugee camp in the world by the end of November 2016, reactions have been growing. Monday, during the last of his 5-day visit in Kenya and Somalia, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees made a statement. According to Filippo Grandi, if the closing of the camp must take place, and therefore the repatriation of refugees who are mainly Somalis, this should not be done unilaterally by Kenya. The UNHCR, the Somali government, but also the refugees themselves must agree to return to their country of origin.
And I'm pretty sure that once the government of Kenya sees that there is serious intention on the part of the international community and on the part of UNHCR in particular to address this issue with more resources, with a good plan, they will also accept that this has to be gradual, progressive, and certainly, they said it themselves, it has to be done in a humane, dignified, and safe way. And we have a waiting list of about 8,000 people that have already subscribed to be repatriated under the present condition.
But for the Kenyan authorities, the arguments given on May 6 for the Dadaab camp closure are economic and security related. Firstly, the camp maintenance costs too much money to Kenya. And secondly, the camp is said to be a breeding ground for Al-Shabaab terrorists. Nairobi accused some of the Somali refugees to be involved in 2013 and 2015 deadly attacks of Westgate Mall and Garissa University.
The first thing that happens is the immense pressure on resources. And these resources are not just financial resources. You are talking about communities that are coming in where other communities already resided. So the potential of conflict, right, is very high. Furthermore, is a security challenge. The challenge that you don't know who you're bringing in. Everybody comes in under the label, I am a refugee fleeing political persecution. But who is a genuine and who is not a genuine refugee?
To kickstart the repatriation process and subsequent closure of the Dadaab refugee complex, the government has availed with immediate effect $10 million as a part of putting in place a requisite technical infrastructure to oversee the repatriation process. This decision has been made by government reflecting the fact that the camps have become hosting ground for Al-Shabaab as well as centers of smuggling and contraband trade, beside being enablers of illicit weapon proliferation.
For many NGOs and analysts, these existential terrorist threats reported by the Kenyan government are more likely a means to monetize its hospitality and inflate its safety record as the 2017 presidential election approaches.
It is not about finance. Yes, of course, there is some financing problem, of course, but it is not about finance. It's also about terrorism. They might be linked to some radicalization inside these camps. So that was a link. And we understand it, of course. Again, the challenge of terrorism is real, and it is important to take it into consideration. I didn't say that we'll back down or anything. I just said that he is open. The discussion was open. We did not receive any promise. But again, what we understood that there was a room for discussion about this matter.
Beyond the consequences of the presence of Somali refugees in the Dadaab camp, it is the root cause of this problem that should be treated. For many displaced persons, it's difficult to think about returning to Somalia, as some refugees left the country in 1991 due to insecurity. Repatriation to Somalia would at least imply efforts to establish favorable conditions for this return, such as the construction of schools or other infrastructures.
It's not the right time to go back to Somalia because there is a lot of regions now ruling by Al-Shabaab. So, for example, I said I came from Buale, Middle Chuba, And Bu Ali, our government, the central government, is not now in the hand of the government.
Ideally, the permanent solution could be if integration could be allowed for these refugees to the host country so that they become part of the system. Because you will see some of those guys that we say they are refugees, they were born here. They don't know anything about Somalia. They don't know anything about Kenya. They have been stagnant inside the camp for 20 years.
The Dadaab camp currently hosts 350,000 refugees, mainly Somalis. For the moment, only 14,000 have benefited from the Voluntary Return Program, launched in 2014 by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees.